Have you ever found the process to go from idea to fully produced video takes too long? You got to record to an SD card, dump to your drive, edit, and then edit, render, then upload. Or maybe you're a streamer, underwhelmed with browser-based streaming quality and limitations, and you're uninterested in earning an OBS degree. If you own a Mac, I've got good news in the form of 2 words, and that is Ecamm Live. It's the software I use to create every video and live stream on this channel, and all my courses, website videos, and even shows for a media ministry that are not on this channel. In this video, I'm sharing Ecamm essentials for beginners broken into 5 key areas of focus. Let's dive in. So here we are looking at Ecamm Live on my desktop. Now, only window I have open is my scenes window here and my program window. That's the black screen you see in the middle. That's the program window. And so you can see this is the scenes window here. And one of the things I want to say right here at the beginning is navigating this program window is your first step. That's your first step, your first area of focus. And so here you can see that starting on the left side of the window, right, where it says default here, that's the name of the scene. Next, you have right below it, you have mic delay. And if you were outputting to like another screen or anything like that, all those would be highlighted here in red. Just also notice that with mic delay, if I click it, it will allow me to change the frames that it is delaying the microphone. And that is one of those pro features. Sometimes audio and video get out of sync, and you want to be able to make sure that they marry back up here in your recording program or streaming program, in this case with Ecamm Live. So that's really clutch, having those 2 right on the screen. This, again, as I mentioned, is your program window. The next one you have across the top here is this icon that says stream and record. Now, if I hit the button here, I can select whether I'm going to stream or record, or I can turn both of them off and it's just going to present. And present is something that you may use in like a Google Meet or a Teams meeting or Zoom. But stream and record, you stream, definitely, you know what that means. Streaming to different destinations, record, exactly what I'm doing right now with Ecamm, recording this video. So you have those options there. Then again, in the top of your video here in your program window, you have the 3 types of scenes. Now I'm going to get into that more later, but you have there are 4 types of scenes, but across the top you have 3 of the 4 of the types of scenes, and you can actually select which type of scene you want this scene to be, right? The scene is over here. This is your scene, and this is your window that is showing you what's in this default scene. You can determine what you want this scene to be by selecting one of these 3, or by going up to the scene window, source window, I should say, here, and you can then select of the 4 scenes. We'll get into that in our next section. So this section, we're just looking at program window. In the next section, we're going to look at scenes. Here is just the pro, just letting you know that you are on the pro plan, the pro version, pro subscription, I should say, of Ecamm. And that is the subscription that I recommend. It is $370. I think it's $368 to be exact, per year. It is the cheapest of all the streaming platforms that I have seen or compared out there. So definitely want to make sure you guys get a chance to check that out, because it is a great option, especially if you have a Mac. So you have your pro version here. On the right side of your program window, now we're on this side, you have several icons across this side, and this is where a lot of the magic happens. The first one you have at the top is your camera switcher, and when I select that, you can see that I have 2 cameras selected. One is the FaceTime camera on my laptop. The other is my phone, which is across here on another mount, but recording me. And I also, it always shows you that you have, guest one, but you can add multiple more guest cameras here, just depending on how you have that lined up. So that I can click to open it, click to close it. That's how that works. Then I also have show hide overlays, right? Show hide overlays is you see that overlay section just kind of opening up and closing on the bottom. And the overlay section is a whole nother segment of our video today. So we'll get into that a little later. Next, we have our audio, right? This is your audio or sound levels, I should say. This icon right here opens it, but you can see that the sound levels has come up here. You can add, you can have 2 mics at a time. So I have right now my MacBook Pro microphone, but if I hit the plus sign, I can select from the different mics, and you can just hit the arrow here next to the microphone to select one of the mics. Maybe you have a virtual microphone, maybe you have some other microphone that you want to select, but you have the option to do that. You can do that with the primary microphone as well, and you can remove that microphone by hitting the minus sign. You have some other options there. Echo cancellation is here as well that you can check. You have the audio for your movies, the audio for your sound effects. You have the audio for your guests that are in interview mode. In addition to that, you also have audio for Zoom, and you have system audio if you're doing a screen share. So those will come in here if you, depending on what you're set up, depending on how you're using the application. Next, we have camera effects, and you can see that it looks like a wand with some stars coming from it, but that shows and or hides your camera effects. And on your camera effects, you can take any camera, and so right now I'm just going to actually set this scene to be a camera scene. I'm going to change this camera to my phone camera, which is off to the side here, and I'm going to select that camera with camera effects. With camera effects, this is where you will do your green screen if you have one. I don't, so I'm not going to do anything with that. This is where you will also upload your green screen backdrop. If you're interested in that, you can also do transparent blur. You can zoom in. I'm going to check this box, and you can see I can zoom in on this camera. But in addition to zooming in, you see here that I can actually move where the zoom is. I can actually determine what that camera looks like. And you can actually do this and select that in multiple places so that the one camera can serve as 2 cameras here in Ecamm. That's pretty clutch as well. I want to uncheck that so you can see some of these settings. I can reset all the picture settings that I have here. I can dial in my brightness. I can dial back my brightness. I can give it some different temperature. I do like that. I can give it a little bit of saturation, drop in some gamma, and we can really dial in our look and our color. You can even here in camera effects select a LUT, a lookup table for your camera, a lookup table for your camera that allows to give you a certain picture profile. If you're shooting in flat or raw, you have the ability to add a LUT to your camera here in Ecamm, and that comes in clutch because many of us are using this to stream. So that is a really great thing to have with your streaming setup. There's some other options here as well, but another one to keep note is that you have the option to apply to all scenes. The changes that you made to the camera effect to this particular camera here, if you want those changes, colors, whatever, to be carried across all the scenes, you would simply click that icon there. So that is camera effects inside Ecamm Live. The next one down is sound effects. So I'm going to click on that, and sound effects. These are some that are built in to the system. Applause, bicycle horn, DJ horn, triangle, several things that have been built into the system here, but you can quickly and easily add other sound effects by hitting the plus sign down here. You can group sound effects into folders by clicking the folder to create a group, and you can loop that folder. If you have, say, a folder of background music, you can actually select those. Another thing that's really cool with sound effects is that you can hit the wheel next to any of the sound effects. And to be clear, this would also include music as well. If you had music loaded in here for your sound effects, you would get this same dialog box, and you can adjust the audio on that. That's going to adjust the levels of that particular sound effect or music, and you can determine whether or not that thing will loop by clicking here. For sound effects, y'all, don't make it a loop. It's just a little bit of a pro tip. But for your music, maybe you have a folder, you have a background music for your live stream, you want to have that, drop that audio down a little bit. I would recommend don't drop the audio down here in sound effects, because that's going to control all your sound effects. You want to drop that audio down here so that you're controlling that particular song or set of songs individually. And so if you had some other sound effect that you want to play a little bit louder, you can control that in the main audio there as well. And that takes us through sound effects. The next thing on our screen here is comments. I'm going to bring that screen up again. Comments are also overlays, and so we're going to touch on that in a little bit. But your comments window would come in here, and you can search your comments. If you ask your audience to do Q:, you can search that here. If you have favorites, comments that come up here, you can actually star them. And when you star them, it drops them into this favorites category. If somebody does a super chat or anything like that, it automatically brings them in as favorites as well. So really robust setup and scenario that Ecamm Live has for us here. Then you also have your guests, right? So your guest interview mode experience is here. You would simply go grab the link that is on the bottom here. Once you have that link, you would share it with your guest and they would connect in. And we're going to touch on the guest experience in a second because that is one of the sections of our video for today. There's Zoom as well, and I'm not going to touch on that in this video. I just want you to know that it's here. I am going to do an entire video on Zoom, but in this crash course, it's because Zoom is such an advanced feature, I am not including it, but I did want to let you know everything that is on the program window. And essentially, that is it. The program window is this main black screen that you see here now. You get to determine what that window is. That's the window that is a representation of what your guests or your online viewers are seeing, is a representation of what is being recorded. And this is what your end product will look like. So the program window is super critical, super functional. And we'll talk about some of the other types of things that will go here in our next section, because our next session is scenes. And so there are 4 types of scenes in Ecamm Live. Many of my colleagues share that there are 3 types. That is incorrect. There are 4 types. If you go over here to the menu, one of them says source, and this is your types of scenes: blank, camera, share screen, video file. Blank, camera, share screen, video file. These are your types of scenes. Right now, you can see the check mark is on blank. What would you want to use a blank scene for? I'm so glad you asked, because you want to design your scene fully. And if you want to design your scene fully, then you want a blank scene. And in a blank scene, you can bring in a background, and you can literally just go here to one of the overlay options. And again, overlays is another section, but we'll touch on these in a second. But you would just simply open up your background, which I've done already, and this is now part of the scene. Remember, this is a blank scene. We're building it from scratch. There's nothing there. So now I've got a background. Next thing I may want to add is a camera. I would simply come here, go to new camera overlay, add that camera in. I can scroll my wheel down to make that camera a little bit smaller. I can even change what camera it is. So now I'm changing the camera. I can make sure that the camera is the right size. And then now I have this camera here on the scene. And maybe I want to add a presentation. Maybe I want to add a web widget. I'll get into some of the other types of overlays that you can add, but this is what I would like to call a blank scene. And so now from there, I can take these items that I've added and delete them so that they are not visible anymore. So now we're back on it being a blank scene. The other types of scenes are from the source here, we have a camera scene. So when I select camera scene, it's going to select a camera whichever camera I choose. And depending on the scene you use, that's what's going to show up here in terms of your menu bar. So because this is a camera scene, it gives me options for cameras. And so I have a camera scene here. Very easily I can add my other camera in. Now it's in as a crop. I can hit the wheel and say, nope, I don't want it to be cropped. I want it to be split. Now you see what that looks like. And I can show my background again. These are the types of things you can do with a camera scene. Camera scenes, you can bring in a guest as well. So look there, we got 3. And if I bring in another guest, it brings in 4, and it automatically adds them evenly on your screen so that you don't have to necessarily size them, because this is a camera scene. It is optimized for you to be able to quickly and easily add cameras. And if you want to add overlays or anything like that, you can do that in the overlays window. But that's what a camera scene is. I'll go back to our source scene and we'll go to share screen. When we go to share screen, now I'm showing my shared screen, and you have the option. Again, this menu is going to give you options. I can share my entire screen. I can share current application. I can even show just a couple of different things that are there. It doesn't show the Ecamm live windows that are on the screen. Those are generally transparent unless you change it in your preferences. But that is what a share screen scene looks like. And then lastly, I can select a video file, and here you would have to simply grab a file. I will grab a quick file. Hopefully this isn't going to be too loud, and it will play. So now we have a video file playing on this scene, and you can decide, I'm going to pause this. You can decide what you want that video to do when it's done. You can decide whether you want to have your camera on this scene as a picture-in-picture. You can do that right from the menu bar here. You can actually mute yourself or unmute yourself right here on the menu bar. You can decide whether you want this to start from the video, start video from the beginning, or start from last position. These are all the options you have with a video scene. You can go back 30 seconds, forward 30 seconds, play, pause. You also have the ability to adjust the volume of that video right here on this menu bar. And then lastly, you have go loop video, go to next scene, or end broadcast. All of these I have used and do use. I never use do nothing unless I'm just playing something within a scene. But yes, loop video, go to next scene, or end broadcast. Those are some really good options for you to utilize in a video scene. And that takes us through all the different types of scenes that we have here in Ecamm Live. Now, now that we've looked at our program window, we understood the types of scenes that are there. Keep in mind that in our next section, as we talk about overlays are collections, scenes, I should say, are collections of overlays. And for your overlays, I'm going to pull this front and center. I know that this is small. I'm going to try and zoom in on this as much as I possibly can. Here we go. And you have all of these different types of overlays that you can add. You can add a graphic, it's a new image overlay. You can add a animated overlay. You can add, which can be a video even. You can add a screen share as an overlay. So you don't necessarily need to do it as a scene. You can do it as an overlay. You can add text as an overlay. You can do a text box overlay that is dynamic, which means it will kind of conform to what the size that you created. You can group your overlays so that you can hide them and show them as you please. Camera overlay, which we touched on before. Widget overlay, which is like a website. Then you have a timer overlay and a shape. So we're going to kind of run through some of these hopefully fairly quickly, and you'll be able to see what these overlays are like. Now, you've already seen that we have this background. And again, if I click it and resize it, if I can, let's move it into the overlay section as opposed to having it as a background. If I click it to resize it, now it's just an image. I can have it take up the whole thing. but it is in the overlays. If I put it in the backgrounds, it will take up the whole background. If I put it in all scenes at the top, it will be available in any scene I have across my my shows here in Ecamm. So you have that as well. If let's go ahead and add a shape real quick. Let's add a shape. Here is where we have a shape, and maybe this might be something I'll be using for comments or something like that. Anything is possible. These shapes are customizable in their size, so I don't have to necessarily keep it as a rectangle. I can size it however I'd like. You can add drop shadow to it. You can change the opacity. You can turn its rotation and perspective. You can round some of the corners. You can change what the border width is. You have some granular functionality. You can change the colors and different things like that. So that's what the shape looks like. Let's add a widget. Let's add a widget. I'm going to add in my website. And we will add that in. And so now you see that my website is here. That's just how easy you can add in an overlay to a scene. So now I have my website. I have this rectangle here on one side. On the website piece, if I select this toggle and make that blue, that allows me to engage with the web page as if I was there myself. And you can see what it looks like as I'm scrolling through my website here. Pretty dope. Another option that we have here is, again, to add a camera. We did that before, so I'm gonna add that back in. Maybe now I want to add my name. I can add that in here as well. I'm just showing you these things, not designing them really. I just want you to see how quickly and easily you can begin to build out a scene with overlays, And then here I can actually add in my desktop and add that in as well. Desktop is not custom. It will conform to 16:9, but you can see quickly and easily how much granular functionality we can add into a scene. I'm going to add in an animated overlay. And I'm going to say, yep, add animated overlay. And so now this is a little video that's here, and I can actually have it play. And you'll see that playing through the video there. And I can size it the way that I'd like. All of these are overlays that we've just added to our scene, and you can see them all here. With any overlay, you can hide them and unhide them by hitting the eye icon. You can take any overlay and make them into a shortcut as well. So many different granular functionalities you can do with your overlays because, as I mentioned, you have a lot of options and functionality here in Ecamm with program window, scenes, and overlays. The final two areas that we want to touch on is the guest experience and the interview mode, I should say, preferences. So the guest experience, as I mentioned before, if you come here to the guest window, which is this one right here with the two people on it, we click on that. You can see this here. You would simply open that link, send it to a friend, and what they would see is this window here. This is what the guest window looks like when they join. They would click the join button, and when they join, they would come into Ecamm in this window down here. And once they're in Ecamm in that window, you can add them as a camera overlay. You can add them to a scene just like I've done here. You can add them to a camera scene as I did before, as we demonstrated before. You have some granular functionality around bringing guests in. And I'll just mention here as a bonus, as I said before, you can bring in guests in both Skype and Zoom as alternatives to interview mode, but interview mode is the primary way that you are to bring in guests in Ecamm. Finally, we have the preferences window. I'm going to go back to the main here. This is the preferences window. You can see in the preferences window, there's a lot of things, ground to cover. I won't go through everything, but I did want to make sure that as beginners, you take some time to go through and read some of these items, understand what they are, and recognize what you want to do, make a decision in terms of how you want to utilize this, and then know, okay, I've selected that, so that's how my video or how my Ecamm will function going forward. So several things here: show camera switcher on main window, show animated reactions, show program window while in other apps, keep utility windows in front while live. There's so many different little things here that you can look at. I've got, of course, on my account, stream size. You can decide what your stream size if you want it to be vertical, or you want it to be, 4K 1080p. If you want your shape to be vertical, you can actually change that to tall. And let me move my window here so you can see how that is adjusted this to tall, or you can go back to the 16:9. And Ecamm will try to size things properly for you. You can determine, you can even do a speed test right here from within your stream tab in the preferences window. Recording, you can record one camera, you can record all the cameras individually, and along with program window, a lot of different functionalities you can do here. And again, you also have your recordings folder that you can set if you don't want to use the default location. Destinations, this is where you will go through, add your destinations. You can add any of the above, and you can also do RTMP as well. Instagram is Ecamm does Instagram the best, in my humble opinion. You can actually get comments from Instagram, which most other platforms don't allow you to do. Here you can set your default source mode on. This is on the video tab here in preferences. This is a huge piece that I want to make sure I add into this video as a crash course for Ecammers. You want to make sure you set your default source mode to blank. Many people set it to camera. I think that is a mistake, because if you set it to camera, you're always going to have a camera in the background, even as you design your scenes. And many times that will hog up resources and cause your machine to crash. So make sure you set it to blank. And if you want it to be camera, you can always select camera, but having your default source mode to blank means those three options you have at the top, the only one that is excluding is the blank one, and from there you can select that very quickly and easily as soon as you create a new scene. Audio, you have the ability to set your audio settings here. This is where you have the original mic delay option, where you can set that as well. Interview mode, you can choose how that functions. Screen sharing, you can choose how that functions. Shortcuts, remote control, Elgato Stream Deck is already there. Then you have some Zoom integrations that you can do there as well. This is Ecamm in a nutshell. I know this was not a short crash course, but it is a crash course nonetheless. And I hope that it was meaningful to you. Man, that was a lot. Now that I hope you have a handle on the platform, there are 5 scenes I believe every Ecammer should create and use today. That's right, today. Let me list them for you. Full camera with overlay, 2 to 3 person cropped, 1 to 2 person with screen share or PDF. Then you also have 1 to 2 person with large comments, and the placeholder scene. Trust me, fam, these from experience have served me well. And in this video right here, I walk you through step by step how to build each of those 5 scenes I just mentioned. All the different overlays, the different pieces of the scenes, all the things that you need to do. And I think it's a great crash course for anybody that's interested in, okay, now that I've understood what Ecamm is, now how do I use it? Click right here to watch, and I'll see you over there. Oh man, grace and peace, fam.